Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with another episode of Dave's Faves. And today we're going to be doing Pierre Boulet's Le Marteau sans Maître. Just kidding. There it goes. No, we're not. We're not doing that at all. I'm talking about Benjamin Britten, his violin and piano concertos on one disc, conducted by Britten, with fabulous soloists who are dedicatees of the works, Sviatoslav Richter and Mark Lubotsky. Now, are these the best performances of these two works? I don't know. I mean, that's not the point, really. This is the best coupling of these two works, which is why this is one of my favorite discs, because you get them both, and they're supremely well played by both soloists, and fabulously conducted by Britten, and excellently recorded by Decca. And what more could you ask for? The reason I chose these pieces for this particular talk is because, Britten is so famous for his vocal music and his operas that his orchestral music tends to get a little bit neglected, and it's of somewhat uneven quality. I mean, he was not an orchestral music composer, primarily. That is, abstract orchestral music. I mean, he only wrote, the Simple Symphony, the Cello Symphony, neither of which are real symphonies, frankly, the way I would at least conceive of them. And I find the Cello Symphony to be rather grotty and unpleasant, as often as not. But these two concertos are wonderful and neglected. And I don't understand why they're neglected, particularly the piano concerto, which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and tons of fun. I understand why the violin concerto is neglected. It may be the greater work of the two. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful piece of music. Gorgeous, but it ends quietly. It commits the gravest sin in concerto land. And so people tend not to want to do it too much, because where are you going to put it in the program? You're going to end like, goes out with a whimper. I don't ever think that should be an issue, because any soloist worth his salt will raise the roof with the piece. I mean, they'll just get a huge ovation, and they'll come out and do a nice flashy encore, which can end the first half of the program and make everybody happy as they go into intermission. If you need to have noise before intermission, which I don't really think is true, but there you go. I don't understand why we have these conventions, because they're so anti-musical, but there they are, and we have to at least acknowledge them, if not observe them. So anyway, this is the violin concerto, as I said, is gorgeous. It's gotten, I think, a bit more play than the piano concerto, principally because there aren't that many great violin concertos out there. And when a major composer writes a single major violin concerto, people tend to pay attention, at least violinists do. And I just love the work. I just love the work. It is songful and lyrical and beautiful, and why on earth doesn't it get performed more frequently? I guess that quiet ending must do it. And the piano concerto, the piano concerto actually is a little controversial. First of all, there is an extra movement that Britten took out and replaced. So there are some versions out there now that include, all 5 movements. It has 4 movements. And, one of them it's an appendix. You don't stick it in there. But, there's an original version and the revised version, which is always a horrible thing to do, because it just makes things more complicated. And what we really need is someone to just play the damn thing the way the composer left it and make the best case for it. But they don't do that. They just don't. So we have to deal with that issue. And then the other problem with this concerto is the finale. Oh my, that finale. Now it begins with, like so many of Britten's orchestral works, this is actually a piece in suite form. That is Baroque suite, a dance suite. That is, you have 3 or 4 or 5, however many he has, character pieces. He's not trying to follow conventional classical form, which may also be an issue for some people. God knows who. But the first movement is a toccata, which is a touch piece. In other words, it's designed to show off your mastery of the keyboard. In modern terms, it usually means a piece in perpetual motion, very quick perpetual motion. In Bach's day, when we had like the toccata and fugue in D minor, it was just a piece that would allow the virtuoso to try out the instrument and show us the full range of resources available, particularly on an organ. So it would have pedal passages and keyboard passages and fast bits and bits of big, full harmony, and you get to play around with all the different registers and show what the thing can do. That was a toccata, and it comes from the Italian toccare, which is to touch. To touch. And, in the Baroque period, when you played the piano or played the keyboard in French, for example, it was, the art of touching the harpsichord, toucher, le clavecin, that was to play, to touch. And so that's what a toccata is. And this toccata is wonderful. It's fast and zippy, and it goes da 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 da. Oh, it's marvelous. But the big problem with this is you get after that, there's a waltz, and then an impromptu, and finally a march. And the march, the march. The march is almost Mahlerian. Britten was a big Mahler fan, and, Mahler was big at, writing these sort of swaggering, quasi-vulgar populist marches, and that's what this is. And it really annoyed some critics when this piece first came out. The tune is great. It's oh, you just want to just tap your toe to it. And, classical music people are really not into tapping their toes, especially the more priggish amongst them, of whom there apparently was no shortage among the audience at the premiere. So, but who cares? Again, it's a wonderful work. This is such a terrific record. And I just love it. I really, really do. I've never understood why, like I said, these pieces are, ignored the way they are. And especially this recording, which is just fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. You've got, the Richter. Ooh, Richter. Everybody goes, Richter. Yeah. And Mark Lubotsky was a wonderful violinist. It's great. It's just great stuff, for heaven's sakes. And everybody's always complaining that everyone plays the same old concertos over and over again. And there's no excuse for you to do it at home. You don't have to be one of those witless lemmings that just does nothing but listen to like the Tchaikovsky violin concerto. And yes, it's a wonderful work. Don't get me wrong, but there's more. And so for those of you who like the more part, this is essential, and it certainly is for me. I think it's just a glorious recording. So keep on listening, folks. Thanks so much for joining me for this episode of Dave's Faves. Take care.